Hey everybody, this is Dream. So apparently my live streaming was being squirrely, so I'm trying this again. Before I get started here, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really helps the channel a lot. I really do appreciate it. Let's go ahead and get into these slates. So we actually are going to cover the three slates here. We have the 1 p.m., the 4 p.m., and then the 6:40 p.m. I am going to kind of go through this relatively quickly because that's a lot to get to. But before I get started, can you guys smash those like and subscribe buttons? It really helps the channel a lot. I really do appreciate it. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me make sure that this is working here, though, real quick. Uh, 1 second. Okay, it is working. Okay. So anyway, let's go ahead and get to the slate. So we're gonna start with the 7 p.m. slate, or rather the 6:40 slate. Now, I don't think there's gonna be too many weather concerns on this entire slate, so that's a nice advantage today. So I do like that a lot. And as for stackable teams, the Mets and the Phillies and Boston are gonna be your top overall stacks. As they have the best situations. The Chicago White Sox have a little bit of upside today because they're facing a weak pitcher, and then Atlanta and the Angels are both going to be teams that have some utility as well, especially with some one-off plays, as well Houston and Texas. So let's go ahead and get our pitchers here. So Strider is going to be a top overall option today. Now Strider does have a good strikeout rate, which gives him a lot of upside. He also has fared well against Arizona in the past, and that's going to make him a popular option today, though he won't be super popular because of his price. Gilbert is another good option for this team and game. He definitely has decent strikeout potential. He's also done well against Milwaukee in the past, so that this give him some utility. And they also had a really solid start to the season against Boston, where he scored 27 fantasy points. So he's going to be somebody I like today quite a bit. Peralta will also be a popular play, and he's got better strikeout stuff than Gilbert and then Nola. So I do think he's a viable option here. He's also been a good start to the season. He's got a good matchup. Nola is also somebody I like, though his strikeout rate is a little bit lower than the top three guys, but he does have some fantasy potential here. Now he got roughed up against Atlanta, but he gets a favorable matchup here. It's Washington, a good bounce back situation, and he's a little bit cheaper than the rest of them, so that helps. One of the good, decent value plays would be Hunter Green, though he does face a tough match with some Mets, and it's at home for uh, Cincinnati, which definitely hurts. But he does have good potential in this game. He hasn't been great against the Mets, but he hasn't been terrible. He does have that potential because of the strikeout rate and strikeout count upside. One of the few guys in the value plays that I do like a little bit are Canning for the Angels against Boston, though he's definitely high risk because I do think Boston has some good options. But he's probably the best guy that was under $8,000, so there's not much to like below that price point. And then Singer for Kansas City is kind of interesting against the White Sox, just because the White Sox suck. But he's not a very good pitcher either, so I don't think he's going to have a lot of strikeout potential in that one. With that said, let's get into our bats now. So we're going to start with our catchers. Sorry about that. My mic crashed. Okay, so anyhow, let's get into our catchers here. And our top two guys are going to be Gio Realmuto for Philly. He does have a good strikeout upside, or sorry, a good home run upside in this game, and he's hit the ball pretty well to start the year. He does. He is priced pretty fairly, and I think he's going to be pretty popular. Same will go with Perez for Kansas City, who could also play at first base. He's absolutely been phenomenal to start the season. I do like Kansas City a lot in this game, as they have really good upside in this one, and so he's definitely somebody I would look at as a good option. Now he's going to be a one-off because I don't think there's a lot of Kansas City players that have a lot of potential today, but he's definitely one of the best on this particular slate. Two contrarian options would be Contreras for Milwaukee and Yanier Diaz for Houston, as they're going to have good upside, but they're a little bit in the same price range as those as well. If you wanted to go to a super value play at this position, then Travis d'Arnaud would be the guy. He also has decent home run potential, similar to Diaz and Realmuto and Perez. But looking at first base, we do like Bryce Harper a lot today. He's going to have absolutely good metrics here. Now he doesn't have the home run upside that so he does, sometimes has, but he's started the season pretty well from a home run perspective, and I look for him to have some utility here, though. He has not hit the ball particularly great, only 211 average so far, but he's got a favorable matchup against Corbin, and Philly's going to be a very popular stack in that situation. Matt Olson is a good contrarian option away from him. He has good metrics for this game. He also has the highest home run upside at this position, though I do think he's going to be low owned because of the price, so he's a good way to get contrarian. And then for a value play, Jose Abreu for Houston. He hasn't hit the ball well yet this season, but his home run metrics for this game and hitting upside is really high, and I do think he's a viable option. Two contrarian plays would be Pasquanto and Perez at this position, and then also Encarnacion for Cincinnati would have some utility as well. A super value play at this position, I don't think there's really much that I like from a like under 4,000 price here. So this is probably going to be a 4,000 price range type of player unless you pay up at that position. Looking at second base, we have quite a few top guys overall, but the top overall two are Albies and Altuve. Now Altuve has the better home run rate. He's also absolutely been phenomenal to start the season. In fact, both of these guys have been. Albies has also been very similar in his upside. I do think Altuve is a little bit safer today than Albies is, but they both have good utility here. Both have good home run rates, and that's pretty much the top two guys for this position. It's not close. If you wanted to go contrarian to those guys, then Simeon would be the guy, and maybe Jonathan India. But honestly, I think the top two you want to pay up at this position of any. I think just because the value is a little bit limited. McNeil at $3,400 would be somebody I would consider a little bit. Looking at third base, Devers and Riley both have a lot of upside today. They have really good home run potential, though they are risky as neither one of them have played particularly great to start the season. But they do have that home run metric and home run upside. Though I don't think you have to pay up at this position because we do have some good value or good average priced players here at in the 4,000 price range, like Miguel Garcia, who looks absolutely phenomenal today. Not with much home run upside, but just good hitting potential and good fantasy output. Same goes for Bregman, who has really good utility for the slate, though he's a little bit expensive and has not started the season particularly well. I also like Boom for Philly a little bit, and Merrifield some as two kind of contrarian options on the slate. But third base, surprisingly, not a whole lot of home run potential on this one outside the top two guys. But I don't think you have to go with them. I think you can go cheaper and be good as well. So let's look at the shortstops here. Now, shortstop is a position today that also has a lot of good upside at the top with the expensive plays and not a whole lot of value, but the top overall guys are going to be Witt and Trey Turner. They both have good potential for home runs. Corey Seager even has a lot of home run upside in this matchup as well. But I do like Witt and Turner better because they have stolen base potential, and Seager really doesn't have any of that. Lindor is a contrarian play, as is C.J. Abrams. And then Pena for Houston is a really good value play. He started the season pretty solid, so I think he's got a lot of potential in this game and a favorable matchup. Though he doesn't have the home run upside, he just looks like a decent play overall. You could also look at Willie Adames and Trevor Story as contrarian options as well. A very deep position at shortstop when it's usually not very, so lots of options there. Looking at our outfielders, Acuna Jr., Alvarez, Tucker, and Garcia are going to be all top tier options for pay ups. But if you want to pay down some, which I think you're going to need to at this position, Ozuna is a good spot to start. He's hit the ball decently well to start the year. He's had some home runs. He does need a home run really to pay off here, but because he doesn't typically do much other than that. But I do think he's a great option on the slate. Castellanos at 4,400 is also somebody I like a lot. And he has really good metrics for this game. I think Philly's going to be popular against Corbin, and Castellanos is definitely one of the guys I like. Also looking at McCormick for Houston, he has hit the ball pretty well, not a home run yet, but he does have home run metrics for this game, so that gives him a lot of upside. And then Melendez is a nice cheap play for Kansas City. Where is he? Yep, here he is. He definitely draws some good metrics for this one. I do like a couple guys from Kansas City as one-off plays, and he's definitely one. He also had a really solid game yesterday, so look for him to continue to hit the ball well. Duvall for Atlanta, Nemo for the Mets, Carter for Texas all have some upside today as well, and Merrifield for Philly. So that's what I have for this first slate. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring slate. I think it's, but we do have a lot of good pitchers, and then of course we have some weak pitchers. So you definitely going to want to prioritize the bats against those weak pitchers today. Uh, Trying to figure out which pitchers to use probably gonna be pretty tough. I typically go with strikeouts, and so Strider and Peralta are the two guys I think I like the best, at least at this point. But we'll have to wait and see as we get closer and how we can get those guys worked in with the prices and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and move into this early slate that starts at 1 o'clock here. This slate does feature a pretty fun slate. Um, I do like it quite a bit today, as it has some good options at pitching. In fact, we have basically three with Screwball, Miller, and Stroman. Screwball is my top overall choice. He looks really good today. He's got the highest strikeout rate, and he's facing Oakland, so he's also absolutely dominated Oakland in the past, and that's really gives him a lot of upside. It's also got a pretty low total at 7.5 runs. All these games are going to be around 40 degrees, so no weather concerns or anything either. The top stacks here, the Dodgers, Toronto, and Detroit, and that's pretty easy to figure out today, quite frankly. The hard part here is gonna be being contrarian. So right now, like I'm probably leaning on using Miller and Screwball here, just because there's nice value plays across the board. But you could definitely go with Screwball and Stroman, or you could even go super contrarian, use Stroman and Miller, and just try to and hope that Screwball gets lit up by Oakland. But I don't really see that happening too much. But that would be the contrarian way to go today, I think. Um, Looking at that though, looking at our catchers, Will Smith's going to be the clear cut option for the Dodgers. He is going to be hard to roster at his price point though, and he doesn't have the home run upside today that he has sometimes. If we really want home run upside, that's going to be Jake Rogers. Now, he hadn't hit the ball well to start the year, but he has had one home run, and I look for him to do that again. Kirk is also a contrarian play for Toronto that you could definitely potentially use. So he also doesn't have much home run upside. Rogers is the overall top option from that position just with that home run metric. Looking at first base, Otani and Freeman both have a lot of upside in this matchup, though. I do think they're pretty avoidable today because we can go with Torkelson or we can go with Rizzo. Both of these guys have good metrics for this game and have a lot of potential for home runs. I really like Torkelson a lot today. He's somebody that I think is probably going to be my core play for this particular slate, as his price is still pretty fair, and I do like his upside. Looking at second base, um, I do like Mookie Betts, though he is going to be extremely hard to roster. He doesn't have the home run upside today that he's had the last few games, but he's still a great option. But if you really want to, one thing that can help you pay down today is go with Ibanez for Detroit. He's going to be super popular as a result. He's got great metrics for this game. In fact, he's got the best hitting metrics outside of Mookie at this position. Though he doesn't have that home run upside as much, he still has pretty good home run upside, and he's actually a little bit better today than Mookie is. And he's also got just a decent overall fantasy potential on this one. He's somebody that's very close to being a core play for me as well. Looking at another option though would be Gleyber Torres. He's a little bit cheaper than Betts as a viable option. Looking at our third baseman, I do like Muncy here, but he definitely carries a lot of upside. The price is not ideal, and he has a pretty good strikeout rate, so that's a little bit of a concern here sometimes. But I do think that he's got some utility. Barreling for Detroit is a value play. You could also throw in the outfield, so you can fit Muncy in here. But Yasherla for Detroit is also interesting today. He's hit the ball very well to start the year. He doesn't have the huge fantasy upside or home run potential, but he definitely has good batting today, and he's generating good metrics on this particular slate. Shortstops, the Mookie's clear cut number one here. Bo Bichette also looking really solid. A good value play though would be Baez for Detroit, as he has a lot of upside in this matchup. He has not hit the ball particularly well yet, but this match is probably one of the best matchups Detroit's had this season, so he's definitely somebody I would consider. Looking at outfielders, Otani, Judge, and Springer are all going to have a lot of potential. So is Soto. I think Judge is, if I can figure out a way to roster him, he's going to be something I'm going to do because of the price, because of his metrics for this game. He just has absolutely mammoth upside. And then you can really, I think a Detroit stack like with Verling, uh, who I do like here at the outfield as well, is definitely going to be a guy that you could stick him in the outfield. So that's going to help you pay up for guys like these expensive ones. But looking at some other value plays, Mark Canha for Detroit, uh, Keymeyer for Toronto, Varsho for Toronto, and Outman for the Dodgers, all going to be guys that I like on this slate. Let's move over to the final slate, which is the 4 p.m. slate. It also features 3 games. Now this slate features the game in Colorado with Tampa Bay and Colorado, and this game has an absolutely insane total with 12.5 runs. This is the only clear weather game, and it's also nice and sunny out, 73 degrees for this game. Whereas the other 2 games on this particular slate are under 50 degrees or below. So that definitely has something to do with the slate. With that said, I do like the Tampa Bay and Colorado players overall on this one. But from a pitching perspective, Case and Rodriguez are the clear-cut options, with Hicks being kind of a contrarian choice here. And so that's kind of the way I'm going to look at this particular slate. Looking at the bats here for this one, um, man, this is kind of a rough one from a batting perspective because you're gonna have to try to figure out how to, roster the guys from that Tampa Bay Colorado game and then mix in guys outside of it. For the but for Tampa for a catcher, I do like Pinto for Tampa Bay. He does have good home run metrics for this game, and he's got good hitting metrics. I think he's gonna be super popular. Diaz is going to be the contrarian option here, as he also has good metrics and home run upside. Nobody else at this position really looks all that great today, so I think that it's going to be one of those 2 guys. Looking at first base, basically the Colorado Tampa Bay game definitely going to have the most upside with Yandy Diaz and Chris Bryant. But Mountcastle is a clear option at this position, as he does draw some favorable metrics here, though he doesn't have the home run upside today that he sometimes has. He still looks like a viable choice on the slate. Looking at second base, Connor Mead for Tampa Bay has absolutely great metrics and is going to be highly used today for Tampa Bay. He's also hit the ball well so far, so that gives him a lot of potential. And then Rogers for Colorado will be the contrarian choice. But if you want to go away from this game, then Xander Bogaerts would be my favorite play, and maybe also Westberg for for Baltimore would have some utility. Laying at third base, Paredes and McMahon both have a lot of potential here. I do like McMahon a little bit better than Paredes, though, but I do think they both have a lot of upside and both going to be high usage. And then if you wanted to go away from that game, then Machado and Brian Hayes would have some utility on this one. Laying at shortstops, Caballero for Tampa Bay will be probably pretty popular because he's dirt cheap at $3,200. That does give him some upside in this matchup, especially helps you pay up at other positions. Tover will probably be decently popular, but I actually like Henderson for Baltimore a lot today. He looks like a very good option on the slate, has good hitting upside, and he's a good contrarian away from Caballero. If you can afford him, then I would definitely utilize him on this one. Uh, Obviously, Cruz and Machado have home run potential, but they're definitely riskier. Looking at outfielders, obviously the Tampa Bay Colorado game is going to be very interesting for this position. Hanley Ramirez and Ahmad Rosario are both going to be extremely popular at the price points that they are because of the matchup here and stuff like that. I do like Rosario quite a bit here, even though he has not started the season particularly well. And I also like Ramirez as well because he's got uh, really good upside in this matchup, even though he has not played particularly well. Uh, the 2 expensive plays from this game in Arizona and then Nolan Jones both have a lot of upside, but they aren't must plays. If you wanted a home run or bust, then Jose Siri uh, for Tampa Bay would be somebody I would consider as well because he does have really good home run metrics here. If we want to get away from this game, which I actually do want to try to get a couple guys away from this game, Santander for Baltimore, Lee from San Francisco, and Sawinski from Pittsburgh, and Ed Mullins from Baltimore would all be guys that I would look at. So with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below.